So we're back with a brand new episode of Walkin Talkin with Tim. That's right, this guy. So my guest today is the one and only Janet Garraty, who is the director of the Gloucester County Chamber of Commerce. And I'm going to have Janet tell you what the Chamber of Commerce does and what it's all about. But we were talking just before this, and it's kind of a different passion than having your own business, but it's a whole different world, right? So give them the gist.
All right. So, first of all, I hope everybody knows that a Chamber of Commerce is an organization that brings businesses together and promotes them, right? That's our job. So if you're not a member of any chamber, but particularly the Gloucester County Chamber, maybe you're missing out.
I'm a member.
You're a member. Thank you very much. And a very supportive member at that. So chamber, the difference in the passion is that as the director and my staff, we have to understand your passion.
Right.
Like a business owner's passion.
And to that, shout out to Stacy and Lindsay.
Stacy Myers and Lindsay Kamiri.
Boom.
Couldn't do this without them.
There you go.
So the business owner is like,
Yeah.
you're out in this island, right? You feel like you're on an island and you're like, nobody gets this but me.
Yeah.
Because it's all on your shoulders. It's your name on the door. So we have to know that and understand that pain and help you walk past it. And that's what it's all about.
You often, as a business owner, feel like you're kind of alone in the world. You know what I mean?
You
Like
are.
I get all this weight on your shoulders, and
Yes.
like, how am I going to get through all this? Get your staff through and all that good stuff. It's a lot.
Yes.
And that's where when people turn to the chamber, because sometimes, right, you get to that point where you're going, I don't know what to do next.
I don't know what to do.
Right? And people need to realize that they can go to organizations like yours and say, hey, who do you have, or can you help me, and whatever, and just help get answers to questions you're just dying for answers, Like,
you might not be able to ask the question of your staff or your, other
husband,
people,
your wife,
or
your
your
friends.
wife. They don't quite get it.
No.
Right? But
and they don't want to hear it usually.
and they've heard enough.
They've heard enough.
So I think what you need, and I noticed this when I started my own business, because I had a business before I did this. I think what you lose the water cooler time with coworkers when you're the business owner.
Sure.
Right? Because you're out there hustling, you're in a car, you're eating McDonald's, it's always gross in your car, but you have to kind of keep it nice because you might have a client.
You never know.
There, right? You never know. So here, we're the water cooler.
Yeah.
For businesses. We're the place where not only can you build your business through all the contacts and resources we can give you, but you're like, hey man, I had this happen. This client really drove me crazy today. And you're like, yeah. And the other guy said, yeah, it happened to me. Blah, 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 blah. And you get a fix.
I think you just created a new event. The water cooler talks.
The water cooler talks. It's true.
I think it's done. It's
done.
We're done.
Let's do it. Can we get another T-shirt made?
Hey, by the way, that's a really nice T-shirt you're wearing today.
It is a little banner moment. Thank you, Tim. It's wearing well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I think that's, people need connection, and so we're like the octopus of connections. Like our tentacles are all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
So with that, let's roll right into one of the things you did for a living, which is journalism, right?
Yes.
All about connection, right?
Yeah.
So what was that like?
50,000 connections.
What was that like?
It was, I came into it. It was mid-career for me. I came into it. I was 40 before I became a journalist. So I wouldn't have been able to do that job had I started in my 20s, because you really have to know what the average homeowner and person is up against.
Sure.
And at 20, I didn't.
Who does?
Who does? So I think what I learned.
Throw me another beer.
It was funny. So this is a great little story. I was anonymous, right? So I put my first story to bed, and I was, okay, fine. And I was coming into the office the next day after the paper hit, and I'm listening to some AM radio station.
Oh my.
And this, local AM guy, I happen to turn it on, and this guy is like ranting and raving about the story I wrote. And he's like, rah, 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 and he's like, and Janet Garraty, I don't know who she is. And I was like, oh, I was petrified. I went from 2 weeks before, I'm painting my kitchen, to now I am on this guy's crap list.
Yeah,
you know, and now everybody knows me. Can I go to the grocery store?
Way to go, Jan.
You know, and this was fortunately before social media.
Right.
And I was so shaken by that.
Yeah.
But then I went into the office and I had editors and photographers and fellow reporters back when that existed in a newsroom. And they were like my tribe. They were my safe place.
When a newsroom existed.
When a newsroom existed. When there was support for news back in the day. So I learned a lot about how to make things that were maybe boring and make them relevant to 50,000 readers or 10,000 readers, because we had that many. So that took time to learn that.
Yeah.
And, you know, you really had to pay attention to, like, one thing I just learned to do was, like, if I was listening to something, quite honestly, it was like, what am I interested in? Because I was an average person.
You're picking through the podcast now. I don't know.
Like, right? And I was like, if something made me go, what? Like, if there was a story, like a politician said something, crazy stuff, and they said something, and my head went, what? I'd be like, write that.
There you go.
You know? And yeah, there were times that, you know, I would just write that, and, you know, it would fly off the stand. So
it's pretty crazy.
So it was great. It was, you know, it was 5 years. You know, I could work around my growing family, so I liked that.
Oh, we gotta get in that.
Yeah.
I gotta dig in there.
Yeah. So I went to the Marine Corps. I got invited down to Paris Island.
Yeah.
I was a reporter, and they invited people down to see how Marines were made.
Yeah.
So I went down there for a few days. So
Wow.
I had a lot of really cool little assignments.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. A lot of, you know, a lot of fun little stuff.
But talking about your family, you said dad's from Brooklyn.
Dad's from Brooklyn.
Mom's from Inglewood.
Yes. Well, mom's from Cresskill, which is the next town over.
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah.
And then you said that your parents met in New York City at, was it New York Bank?
The Bank of New York. Yes.
I was really close on that one.
Yeah, that was New York Bank, Bank of New York.
Trying,
I think we got there.
It's all a memory thing, right?
Yes.
So New York Bank, and you said, this is interesting to me, I love this, that your mom saw your dad and was like,
kind of cute,
whatever. You also told me the other night that when you met your husband at Circle Bar in Brigantine, that it was a very similar event where, you know, guy popped his head in the room, right?
And I was like, ooh, who's that?
Who's that guy?
Who's that?
So that's Chris.
That's Chris, right?
Yeah, and you and Chris were married probably how long after that?
After that, about 2 years after that.
Wow, that's pretty fast, right?
Well, you know,
boom, boom, let's go, Chris.
I knew what I saw.
Yeah, that's right. She knew what she wanted.
And so did he, by the way.
That's right. Good call, Chris. So, and now you have 2 kids. Let me get this right. I want to say Laura. And Paul.
Paul's the older.
Now, Paul was the Marine and now has a social media site. What's it called?
Well, he works with OAF Nation.
Yeah.
It's an online media outlet for young veterans.
Right.
Which he was.
And your daughter
She's a producer.
That's right.
Yes.
She's a producer.
For a big news outlet up in New York City.
Yeah.
How's that?
So the work is done. Mom and Dad did a good job. They built a nice franchise, right? Kids are doing good.
Nice franchise.
Kids, that's the way I look at it, right?
That is true.
Kids are doing good, and you guys can, you know, have a good time now.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah, we're pretty, like, we got really lucky. I got really lucky in life, and, you know, met a great guy, and, you know, had 2 wonderful, healthy children that are now interesting adults.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can't, you know, pinch me with that.
Well, right. So that makes me think of a saying that I really like a lot, which is, you know, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, find a new room, right? because that's the idea, right? You want to be around people that are smarter than you so you can learn from them.
Always.
So here's the real deal, though. So I asked you what your passion was. So I actually honed in on, hey, listen, to your back porch, you got a glass of wine or a beer or whatever, you're just kind of sitting around. What are you passionate about? So, and I found out, and I'm not going to make her say it because it's kind of a convoluted, but basically Janet is a passion butterfly. Yes. And you also told me, which is really cool, that your most fearful moment was the day that your son was you were on the tarmac and he had to go to Afghanistan.
Yeah. So my son was in the Marine Corps. We couldn't ever talk him out of it. It was during the Afghanistan war. It's back in the 2010. He was there 2012. And so my husband and I, had to kind of stand straight and just let him know we were proud of him, and we're just holding each other up, and every other parent that was there. And honestly, Tim, it was the most terrifying
moment.
That moment, and the 7 months after that, you just woke up every day in a sense of terror. I think it's a lot like, quite honestly, I hate to describe it, but it's a little like if you had a child that was sick,
right?
Really sick, and you didn't know what was going to happen. And so the gracious part of our story is he came home and he was okay.
Right.
So, but it was 7 months of really terror.
But you said it put you in check with your own gratitude.
Oh yeah, right? First of all,
how much more gratitude could you have, right?
Yeah, when he came home, we did obviously the homecoming, yes, right out of a TV movie.
Sure.
We did that, had the big sign.
Yeah.
And then a couple of days later, we took a few days and we went to Wilmington, North Carolina, right? That we spent a couple of days there. So we got a hotel in this place. It was very nice.
Right.
And so the kids had their room and my husband and I had our room. And so what happened was I woke up in the morning, and what I always did was do my time, like what time is it in Afghanistan?
Oh, geez.
Right? Because, okay, it's 7 a.m. here. It's, 9 hours or 11 hours, something like that. And I was like, what time is there? And all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute. He's in the room across the hall.
That's crazy.
And my whole body just went, ugh, and it was like, I ate a lot of breakfast that day. So, yeah. And so it was just that. I think you want to have a moment of gratitude. I think that's, besides having your children, that moment when they put them in your arms, it was that big.
Well, you got them back in your arms.
I got them back in my arms. A little bigger.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So last thing, so you got the crew on deck at the chamber and all that good stuff, and we're both pretty passionate about, seeing, young professionals and, grow
all
up.
those young piss and vinegar people
All those
that
young
we
piss
were,
and vinegar
now
people.
they are, right?
How they're going to explode and come out on the scene, and what they're going to do in the future, and all that kind of stuff. What's your own personal advice as they're coming up?
Oh gosh, their own advice. I think you said it earlier. Be around people that are smarter than you. And I love this saying. There's a reason why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Right? Use those.
Yes, we did talk about that
before this. And you know what? I know people have 2 eyes and they're looking at their computer screens, but eyes and ears don't always go together.
Yes.
Listen, I think and always be curious. Like, listen, I've had a lot of careers. I've had a lot of jobs, and I always tell people when something makes you go, "Ooh, what's that?"
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Because you're listening.
It's okay if you're listening. Pay attention to what drives you, and I think sometimes it's going to lead you in crazy places, but most of the time, it's you following your heart. It's your heart saying, "Hey, go this way." Pay attention to that.
Follow the signs.
Follow the signs. Yeah, follow the signs.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to get a hold of you to either join the chamber or get advice or any of the stuff that we talked about, right? They just want to call you because they just want to, hey, Janet, you're pretty cool. I just want to have a conversation, right?
Right.
How do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can reach out to us on our website, right?
Yeah.
And it's gc-chamber.com. And then you can hit a contact form and dial me right up.
Yeah, and you're on LinkedIn and all that stuff.
I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm on all that. My staff makes sure, at this point, I'm like, I don't want to do it.
They make sure she's visible.
They do. They make sure. God bless them. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Lindsay. I don't know what I do.
I'm making sure she's extra visible right now.
She's extra.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right, listen, well, thanks for being on.
Well, thanks for having me, Tim.
This was a lot of fun,
Thank you.
And hey, all you guys out there, follow me on Instagram. It's Walkin' and Talkin' with Tim, as you know. And keep on walking, keep on moving. And we will see you next time on Walkin' and Talkin' with Tim.